The clock is ticking. Sequence 41. A day later he got up early that morning and walked into the living room. Zita was lying on the couch. He walked towards her and noticed that she was crying. He sat next to her on the couch. "What's wrong? I noticed that you've been low the past week." He looked at her waiting for an answer, but Zita remained silent. Irritated, he roughly grabbed her arm. "I hate to be kept in suspense. What's going on? Talk to me." She looked at him with tears flooded in her eyes. She was tired of this kind of life. She was tired of being used for sex. She wanted to go back home and start afresh. She had come to the realization that Thomas was a selfish man incapable of loving anyone, and what he felt for Maddie wasn't love but lust, obsession. "I want out." The words were out of her mouth before she could stop them. Thomas glanced up at her, a questioning look on his face. "What do you mean you want out?" "I am tired of being just a servant to you. You have all these women coming in and out of this house. You treat them like queens and yet you treat me like garbage. The only time you ever pay attention to me is when you want sex. I am tired. I just want to go back home." She said rubbish. He screamed at her at the top of his lungs. "That is total bullshit. We had a deal. I own you, Zita. I am never letting you go." "Well, I don't want to be part of your stupid deal anymore, and I won't allow you to use me for sex anymore. Let me go back home and find someone to love me for me. Over my dead body will I allow you to leave," he snapped. "You are an unstable man, Thomas. You need to be locked up in a mental hospital. You are sick." He became outraged and angry at the fact that she was speaking to him in such a manner. He was in control and no woman had the right to talk back at him the way she was doing. "Watch your fucking mouth, you whore. I loathe you." She spat, roughly grabbed her hair and yanking her out of the chair. She whimpered at the pain. He got down on his knees and grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. "Till death do us part, he said with a wide grin on his face. She glared at him in anger. He buried his face in her neck, wetting it with his tongue. On any other day she would have been turned on, but she was done being his sex toy. She tried to push him away desperately. "Leave me alone." She suddenly freed herself from his grip by kicking him in his inner thigh and ran for the door. Thomas had not expected her to react the way she did. She heard a loud groan behind her but didn't dare to look back. Thomas got to his feet and ran towards her. Her heart pounded against her chest as she ran to the gate and shakily fumbled with the lock. She screamed as he grabbed her, restraining her from unlocking the gate. He yanked her up and dragged her into the living room, throwing her on the floor. "You lousy bitch, you want to leave me after all I have done for you," he yelled. "You are a sick bastard." She tried to scramble up but he slammed his fist into her stomach. The breath whooshed out of her lungs. "I regret being a part of your silly games. I regret coming back here with you. I regret falling in love with you. And you know what? Maddie will never be yours." He kicked her again in the stomach. She screamed. "Zita, you have pressed the wrong button," he said, his eyes burning with rage. He lifted her up and slung her over his shoulder and carried her up to one of the empty rooms in the house. He threw her on the floor and ripped off her dress and underwear. He undressed and climbed on top of her, straddling her thighs. "This is probably the last time I will have sex with you before I kill you," he said, slammed into her with a painful lunge without giving her time to adjust. She cried out in pain but he didn't stop. He continued to rip into her flesh with a harshness that took her breath away. He had gone from being human lust-driven to animalist lust-driven, and there was no stopping him. When it was finally over, he pulled out of her body and walked out of the room and locked the door. Zita was of no use to him anymore. He had no choice but to get rid of her. She opened the door and hugged him. She stood on her toes and rested her head against his shoulder. "You missed me that much?" he asked. "I'm still upset with you about what you did yesterday though," she frowned. "I am sorry, I didn't mean to take her side." "Whatever," she said and lightly kissed his lips. He held her hand and they walked into the living room. "Is Chrissy in?" he asked. He had not told her about Chrissy confronting him over their relationship. "No. She went out." "Come help me cook," she said. He followed her into the kitchen. "Where is Trini?" "She is in my room. She must be playing games on my phone." Any luck in finding a maid? He asked. He might have found someone. She said that's nice. Gracie found her for me actually. I will be meeting her tomorrow. Hopefully she qualifies. I am sure she will. Hopefully. I miss being on the job full time. Miss Camera Woman, he teased. Leave me alone, Mr. CEO. Do you remember how you made me apologize to you? The first day we met. She laughed. You insulted me. I didn't. You did. How could you come late for such an important shoot? She rolled her eyes. I had a hectic morning that day. I am always on time. I am sure you know by now. I do. She smiled as memories of that day flooded her mind. She had really been irritated by his behavior. Who knew that the same man who had gotten her so angry would make her fall head over heels in love with him? Chard looked at her as she cooked. Then he smiled. Life was so much easy with her in his life. Walking up behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her body against his and kissed her neck. You are distracting me, she chuckled. He closed his eyes and smelled the perfume on her skin. You smell good. A giggle escaped her as he kissed her. Then she turned her head, his lips caught hers and she relaxed in his arms. He kissed her more fiercely as he pressed her up against the kitchen cabinet. A knock at the door interrupted them and they backed away from each other. I will get it, he said. She smiled shyly. Okay. He walked towards the door. Coming, he muttered. He opened the door to reveal a delivery man holding a large banquet of roses. I have a delivery for Miss Matilda Moonga, he said, looking down at his delivery sheet. Babe, he called for her. Ho, is it babe? Maddie asked as she came out of the kitchen. A delivery man. At first Maddie thought the flowers were from Chard. She smiled at him. Ah boo, she said they are not from me, he said. Oh. Can you please sign for them? The delivery man said, eager to leave. Do you have any idea who sent them? Chard asked the delivery man. No. He shook his head. I just drive the truck, but if there's no card in there you could call the store, they might have a record of it. Maddie signed for the flowers and took them from the delivery man. Thank you, she said. The delivery man reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. You can contact the store on this number. Thank you. Chard took the card and closed the door. Who could send you flowers? He asked. He don't know, she said as she searched the flowers for a card. She found one. Maddie removed the card and opened it. Couldn't wait another day to say I love you. Aaron, the card read. What does it say? Chard asked. Maddie remained silent. He grabbed the card from her and read the message out loud. Who's Aaron? He asked. Before she could respond, Trini came rushing into the room. Mummy, your phone is ringing. She got the phone from Trini and looked at the caller ID in a shocking manner. Aaron, it read. Aaron is calling. Pick up, Chard said sarcastically. Pressing answer on the phone, she put it on her ear. ******, another one tonight if the comments are encouraging.